Hello, everyone. I just think let the music play. But welcome back to another episode of Chasing Labels. This is episode number 139. I'm glad someone wrote it at the top of the screen because it sure wasn't me. But yes, we are back here for Spy number 139, episode number 139. This is the first, I guess, official episode of me hosting the show completely solo, completely alone. Steven, if you haven't noticed the last week was his final episode. It was his final episode for now. Who knows what the future has entailed for all of us, really. We, of course, will continue to be working together on a lot of projects and cool stuff like that. I talk to him all the time. We're still super close and stuff. And he, of course, hopefully will be watching. And today, we, of course, will continue on with the show, going through the usual announcements like we normally do. And in this week, I do want to start off first by, on a more solemn note, the solemn note being that the great Roger Corman, who is someone I think many of us are well aware of, unfortunately passed away recently at the ripe age of 98 years old. And of course, he's responsible for so many of the films that we love in one way or another. And the thing with all of that is that I don't think a lot of people really know who he is. And he's responsible for the careers of like Martin Scorsese, as well as Francis Ford Coppola. Throw in Jack Nicholson in there. Throw in, so many people. It goes on and on. The late great Peter Bogdanovich, of course. So I do want to mention, the passing of Roger Corman has sent a ripple effect throughout many people I noticed online, whether it be fans, whether it be people who work with him, because he has been involved in the industry for many decades, going all the way back to goodness, the late 1950s, I want to say. So yeah, an extraordinary passing for an extraordinary man, and we thank him for all that he did in terms of our cinematic lives, because I don't think if you've seen a movie in the last 50 years, you've probably been affected by it one way or another. But um, moving off of that much solemn note, let's dive into a lot of the things that we like to dive into on here. If you've picked up anything lately, please let me know in the comments below. All the things that you've been getting. There's been a bunch of sales that have been going on. I know that I myself partook in a couple of them, particularly the Kino sale that just wrapped up last month. But of course, I'm always there at the last second, so I've got to wait until everyone else got their stuff for me to get my stuff. So I've got a whole pile of Kino stuff to get through. I'll be talking about more Kino stuff that's upcoming, some exciting stuff. But I will also be, of course, getting into things like Radiance and Vinegar Syndrome, and things like that. So without further ado, let's get into what's been cooking this week for Kino. Might as well. Let me go and see if I've got it up. I do have it up. Good preparing on my part. So, the first thing I want to start with is Kino is putting out a 4K UHD of Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain is, I think, one of the best films of the last 25 years, 30 years, you could say. Probably the film that should have won Best Picture of the year it came out. But it's getting a 4K UHD release from Kino, and I think many of us kind of knew this was coming. I don't think it was hidden or anything. It was some big secret, but it is a 2-disc edition. It's a 4K UHD and also a Blu-ray as well, and it's coming with a plethora of special features. We get a new audio commentary by film historian, writer Julie Kergo, which is really cool. They seem to be on a bunch of extra features, typically in commentary form for Kino. I'm not sure if they're carrying over all of the kind of older features that were on the original Blu-ray and DVD release from many, many moons ago. I know I have it in my Ang Lee section somewhere over there. But yeah, it's a film that I think has only gotten better with age, because of the themes in it have only been more expanded upon throughout our society, specifically with the LGBTQ plus rights and things like that. So the film was a little bit ahead of its time. I've always thought Ang Lee specifically is a phenomenal filmmaker. I know a lot of his later films now don't get quite the acclaim like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is one of his early great works, as well as like Ride with the Devil, and then even his earlier stuff that he did in Taiwan before he came here, I thought was astounding work. I would love for those to get some type of Blu-ray re-releases. But we do have some comments flooding in here. Steven is actually in the comments. So he actually told me that he would be here. So I expected that one. And we also have our friend Josie DeMarco, who's here as well. And she, of course, was a guest on the Unwatched Pile, which we will still be continuing that series. We actually will be having one next Monday at 9 p.m. So stay tuned for that. And then we got Josie here once again. You should get Steven an action figure for when Steven is not here. If I could figure out how to do that, I would. Maybe one of those Funko Pops, because I think you can design your own Funko Pops. I think that's been a thing now for many years. I would love a Steven Funko Pop that just sits here and just like bobbles and just agrees with everything I have to say. We have another guest here, and hello, just lurking. That's fine. You can lurk as much as you want. We appreciate all the lurkers and all the people who just give us views. You know, we don't mind at all. You are not obligated to talk whatsoever. But moving on from Kino, like I said, just talking about Ang Lee's Brokeback Mountain getting a 4K UHD release. That's a high priority for me. But moving on from there, we have another bit of a re-release. We have the movie Body and Soul from 1947, starring John Garfield and Lily Palmer. It's a movie directed by Robert Rosen, who most specifically, did the movie The Hustler with Paul Newman. That's what I most recognize him from. But this film, Body and Soul, is really, really good. It had a release once upon a time, I want to say from Olive Films. So this is another one of those Olive Film releases that came out in, I think, 2012. You know, now the license has lapsed, no longer around. So Kino's been scooping up all of these as they've been going along. And this is a really good film starring John Garfield as like a prize-winning boxer. Or someone who's rising through the ranks of boxing. And the way the film is framed is you see him getting ready for his upcoming boxing match, and then he's kind of going through some type of existential crisis, and you're not quite sure what it is. And then the movie gets told in flashbacks. So that's how it's structured. And what you learn is from his small beginnings before he became a boxer. Rising through the ranks and having successes and stuff like that, but you also see the influence that world has upon him and on his situation, specifically getting involved with like organized crime and money and owing debt to people that you don't want to owe debts to, stuff like that. Those are the things that movie really delves deep into. So it's a really good boxing film. I highly recommend it. So that's Body and Soul. A really good film. But moving on from Body and Soul, we have a re-release. Well, not even a re-release. Kino's putting these out, but these are films that have already been put out by Imprint a couple of years ago. And these are movies Come Back Little Sheba, The Country Girl, and The Rose Tattoo. Now, I happen to have both Come Back Little Sheba and The Country Girl in the Imprint editions. Maybe I have them in frame. Couldn't tell there. So you may be wondering, what is the big difference between these releases and the ones that Kino is putting out? The one thing that I can tell that is a big difference is that the release specifically for The Country Girl is coming from a 2023 HD master from a 4K scan. This edition does not have that. This, I think, came out in 2021, so that would be before that was even made. So if anything, right away you're getting the upgraded picture quality, and I think it's coming actually with the same exact audio commentary that's on this. Yeah, I believe it is, because they had a most recent update today about these, and where they really broke it down. So yes, it's coming with an audio commentary from professor and film scholar Jason A. Nay. That is on this release. But of course you get the updated picture quality. The Rose Tattoo is coming with a 2021 HD master from a 4K scan as well. I don't believe that the Rose Tattoo initially came with that, but I do know that the same 4K master that was done for this one here from the 4K from for Come Back Little Sheba is is coming the same as well. It's the same as well. Same scan on there, same scan on here. This is also coming with an audio commentary from Scott Harrison, and I believe the new one, the one from Kino, is coming with it as well. So if you have this release and you have um these others here, you may want to get the Kino, you may not. Specifically for the Country Girl, you may want to. That's the one that's got the most change. And that's happened from time to time where Imprint would put out a release from whatever deal they have going on with Paramount, and then Kino will put out the same film from their deal that they have with Paramount. So they're kind of going back and forth here. And sometimes the Kino release will have the better picture quality, so you have to keep that in mind. But all of these films, whether it be Come Back Little Sheba, The Country Girl, or The Rose Tattoo, are very, very good films. The Country Girl is the film in which Grace Kelly won her Oscar. She famously won her Oscar over Judy Garland in A Star Is Born. That's led to much contention in the old Hollywood studio fandom and stuff like that. But The Rose Tattoo and Come Back Little Sheba are both starring Burt Lancaster, one of my favorite actors of all time. So I've seen those films. They're both great. Come Back Little Sheba specifically is very, very good. So moving on from there, let's see what else Kino has in store. And they do have a few more interesting things here. First up here isn't okay. I'm just gonna say it. It's not a great movie by this actor, but if you are a fan of this actor and want to collect all of his stuff, you may want to check this out. It's Paternity, starring Burt Reynolds, as well as Beverly D'Angelo. Beverly D'Angelo, of course, being most known for being in the Vacation films alongside Chevy Chase. But in this film here, she's alongside Burt Reynolds. And the premise of this movie is a bit dated. Seems a little rough. And you'll understand what I'm saying when I say it. So, Burt Reynolds plays a 44-year-old bachelor, super successful, handsome guy, wealthy, great job, great life. He's got like a perfect life. But the one thing that's missing in his life is he wants a kid. He wants a child. And he um, doesn't want to get married. He doesn't want a long-term relationship. He doesn't want a serious relationship. So he decides that he's essentially going to take an ad out or just look for a woman who wants a no strings attached uh, relationship where she just like basically is a surrogate to carry his child. That's what that's the premise of the film. And what ends up happening is you can assume that Beverly D'Angelo ends up being that woman, but of course, as the story goes, things get more complicated as things go along. Specifically, relationship wise, romantic wise, stuff like that. You can kind of guess what I'm saying here of how the film goes. Not a great movie by Burt Reynolds, but he's such a star and he's so charismatic and he has such a presence on screen that you watch the movie even if it's not great and you just he has that magnetism to him that's always also great. So that's Paternity starring Burt Reynolds. There's been a lot of Burt Reynolds stuff that's come out in the last few years. Whether you have the Box to Burt from Umbrella, I know that Smoking the Bandit got a 4K release. A lot of, and I believe Kino, coincidentally, Burt Reynolds has put out uh, Gator and White Lightning. They re-released those in new Blu-ray editions. Well, the same old Blu-rays, but with larger discs and larger disc space and slipcovers, essentially. And I believe some commentaries too. So that's plenty of Burt. But this next one here is something we assumed was going to happen, specifically since they put out the 1970s version of this movie. And this is the Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956, the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So, let me see. I was seeing if I could find my Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 78. I have it here somewhere. But in the interest of keeping things flowing, we'll talk about the 56 version. This has been released on Blu-ray a number of times in a number of places. Most specifically, it has gotten a Blu-ray release twice by the now defunct Olive Films. Olive Films put out a bare bones release. Probably, sir. I'm gonna say 2012 as well, around that time period, because I know because I have it. And I'm looking at it right off camera right now in my horror section, so it's sitting right there taunting me. And they're actually using the same original artwork that it was for the original theatrical poster, right up front for the slipcover, and I think it has reversible art that's also different. So that's pretty cool. But that bare bones release, like I said, nothing there. So they re-released it a few years later in their Olive Signature line. Their Olive Signature line being their more deluxe line, being their kind of Criterion line where they would give these movies new transfers and put a bunch of special features on it. They did it for a number of films. High Noon, Macbeth, the Orson Welles film. They did it for New Leaf. They did it for a few films, but anywho, they did it for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if you have that disc, it's a great release. I unfortunately do not have it. You can still hunt it down. You can find it on like Amazon and other places like that. You can still get it, and you may want to get it because there are special features on that disc that will not be included on this Kino release. This Kino release, while containing most of what's coming on that disc, will not be containing everything, but it will be containing some new things, specifically 2 new commentaries. So in total, this release will have 3 commentaries. But the 2 new ones will be an audio commentary by film historians Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, and then a new audio commentary by professor and film scholar Jason A. Nay. And yeah, there's 3 features on that Olive Signature Edition that's not carried over, so you may want to keep that. If you're a completist and if you want, I guess, everything Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you will want that. But what this release does that one doesn't do, nor I think any other release has done, is it is coming in 2 different aspect ratios. It's the 200 to 1 and the 185 to 1. So the 185 to 1, I believe, is the intended aspect ratio, or I could have it reversed. Don't quote me on that. But you get the aspect ratio that it's always been in, and you get the aspect ratio that the director intended it to be, which is always super important for us aspect ratio enthusiasts. We always got to have the movies looking exactly the way they're supposed to look. And if we don't, we get frustrated. I know I do. It's a movie that is um, it's a movie that it has influenced not only the horror genre, but I think the sci-fi genre. I think just movies in general. There's always some type of reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers or a take on the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I, of course, think of The Faculty, which is kind of a 90s teen version of that. Great movie. I'm still hoping we're going to get that release from Shout Factory or Scream Factory or anyone. Just give us a good release of that movie, please. Um, so that is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Let me go take a look at the comments. I agree with Steven when he said that Comeback Little Sheba is amazing. That movie has so much depth in it, so much contemporary universal depth in that film, thematic depth, that I mean, that it's phenomenal. I highly recommend people watch that any way they can. I streamed it on the Criterion channel when they had a whole Burt Lancaster collection. So I just kind of went through a bunch of his movies. So Josie DeMarco, of course, has some first time new watches. Daughters of the Dust is a great film. There's a Blu-ray of that from Cohen Media. That's relatively new. Great film. Bamboozled by Spike Lee, the movie from 2000 that has a Criterion Blu-ray release, may have one of the most controversial like covers you've ever seen for a Blu-ray release ever, but the movie itself is commenting on it or commenting on what the cover is depicting. So that film is really good. It's Spike Lee, like biting commentary. It's Spike Lee, um, kind of assessing the history of racism in movies and entertainment that has existed pretty much since its inception all the way up to that time until now. So it's good Spike Lee film, good Spike Lee film. Also, Night Shift, the Ron Howard film, which I think I've talked about before, is a great like comedy the from the 80s. A little bit of its time, but I think really, really good. I have an old Snapper case DVD of that I have to upgrade because every time I see the old Snapper case DVD cases, I get upset with myself that I still have them floating around. They get stuck on everything. If you try to get it out, it's going to be stuck on the DVD or Blu-ray next to it without without fail. So moving right along here, let's move to what else Kino's got cooking here. I do want to mention this a little offhand. They do have their Kino Cult #9, and this is a 4K UHD release of an Umberto Lenzi film. And that's kind of the reason why I'm mentioning it. I'm mentioning it because it's an Umberto Lenzi film. If it wasn't an Umberto Lenzi film, I don't think I would care too much about it. But I got to watch it last night. It is streaming available, I think, on Plex and Roku TV, I think, for free with ads, of course. But this is a 4K UHD and Blu-ray dual disc. It's coming from a 2019 UHD SDR master by Studio Canal from a 4K scan of the 35 millimeter original camera negative. And there's an audio commentary by film historian Sam Deegan, which is really cool. This movie, the way I would describe it, um, wow, I didn't realize that. I watched the movie last night and I didn't realize Michael Parks was actually in this movie. But John Saxon and Michael Parks are in this film. And basically, it's Umberto Lenzi doing Spring Breakers circa 1989, but having a horror slasher twist to it. So basically, these kids go to spring break in like Florida, Miami, someplace like that. And there just happens to be a slasher around on a motorcycle, and he wears a helmet to disguise himself. And the local police think it's some leader of a biker gang that they ended up having like killed by the death penalty or something like that. Like that's how the movie opens. Um, and so this whole time, this biker's kind of going around and doing his thing, committing all these murders, and like the police are trying to find him. Then these kids are trying to find out what's going on. Like, why are their friends keep dying? Like, what's happening here? It's a fun 80s slasher with Umberto Lenzi at the helm. But if you have the Umberto Lenzi box sets from Severin, the Lenzi Baker set, as well as his Violent Years set, or Violent Streets rather set, and you just want more Umberto Lenzi, there you go. It's a later Umberto Lenzi though. It's like 1989, and it was in like the last crop of his films. It's completely different than the Lenzi Baker films and even the Violent Streets films in terms of tone. Like you wouldn't have believed that it was Umberto Lenzi until you saw his name on the credits. Like that's how different it is. But so I wanted to mention that it is. It's also the cult. Kino Cult #9, which I know a lot of people have been keeping up with. Um, let's see. Next up here that I want to mention is the movie Bad Boys. Now, not the Michael Bay film with, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. It is the movie starring Sean Penn, the one from early on in his career, early on in his career from 1983. This movie stars Sean Penn, Issei Morales, Clancy Brown, Ali Sheedy, Alan Ruck is in the film. It's written and directed by Richard DeLello. No, it's written by Richard DeLello and directed by Rick Rosenthal. The reason why I mentioned Rick Rosenthal is because he's done a lot of TV in his career, but he's also, I think, most famously known for doing Halloween 2, the sequel to the famous, John Carpenter Halloween. And I've always had like a soft spot for that movie. I always thought it was super underrated when it comes to the Halloween lexicon. It's basically Michael Myers in a hospital killing people, trying to hunt for, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis. It picks up right after the end of the original film, and it's like it combines like two big fears, like a serial killer and a hospital. You can't get more scary than that. It's just absurdly scary. Some great sequences in that film and stuff like that. But I've always had a soft spot for it. I know it's been retconned what twice now. Yeah, it was retconned. Maybe not twice, at least once. at least once. The Halloween timelines are a mess, an absolute mess, and it's gonna get even messier now that someone else has the rights to them. So it's a whole big story for a different time. But let's let me talk a little bit more about Bad Boys. So Sean Penn is kind of a juvenile delinquent, and he's in a prison, and it's just kind of a rough situation. You get that like juvenile prison life, and he's like rebelling against the guards and rebelling against um you know the order and stuff like that. It's a movie I haven't seen in probably a while, at least 10 years. I have it on Blu-ray. There's an old Blu-ray of it. I think it's there in the corner over there. But yeah, it's a really good underrated Sean Penn film. It's kind of the opposite of his character in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Like Spicoli is like super funny, charismatic. He's completely chill and relaxed. This character is the opposite of that. He is someone who is violent and things like that. So yeah, different film from him. Kind of forecasting the way like the rest of his career would kind of play out. Sean Penn does a lot of super dramatic roles. He does a lot of heavier roles. If you've seen Mystic River, if you've seen Milk, you know what I'm saying. But moving on from there, let's move right along to I think that's it. That's it from Kino actually. So we will get rid of Kino. We will see what else has been cooking in the coffers. Let's you know what? Let's rip the band-aid off. Let's rip the band-aid off. Let's go to Studio Canal. Studio Canal has had a busy 2 weeks. And by busy, I mean like they dropped a super big heavy bomb on us as movie lovers, as collectors, as fans of all-time great films. They are putting out a 50th anniversary 4K edition of Coppola's The Conversation. Now, this is coming in one of their thicker, more large, more deluxe sets that you've seen what they've done with The Outsiders, something like that. They just did it with another Coppola film, so they're doing that. And I know that here we will probably get those in a much smaller, more concise edition, but these Studio Canal sets are super nice, super deluxe. They take up a lot of shelf space, unfortunately, but they are really, really awesome. Now, this is coming with a brand new 4K restoration of the film in Dolby Vision with an HDR presentation of the film as well. There's a Q&A with Walter Murch that was filmed in 2017. There's commentary from Coppola, commentary from Walter Murch. There's a bunch of special features here. It's also coming with a 64-page book, essays, and I believe this 4K restoration has been screened at certain exhibitions across the world, and I believe some people who may be listening have seen it, or at least know someone who has seen it, and they say it looks absolutely fantastic. You can actually get a little taste of it. There is a trailer for how the restoration looks, and I must say that it looks very, very good. I cannot wait to get this. I think this is one of Coppola's masterpieces and masterworks of a film, The Conversation, and he had it pretty much sandwiched in between The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. It was all in that area, that early 70s, just Coppola magic, that 70s Coppola magic, which is all we talk about when we talk about Coppola. Yeah, um, it stars Gene Hackman, and he is someone who you hire if you want to like spy on people. And the movie is so much more than that. I can't even explain it. You just have to experience it for yourself. You really do. I have an old Blu-ray of it that was actually coincidentally put out by Lionsgate. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. So I have this old Blu-ray here, which has, it has its special features. It's got a commentary with Coppola. It's got a commentary with Walter Murch. It's got an interview with David Shire and Francis Ford Coppola. It's got a bunch of things on here. Maybe many of you have it. It was put out by Lionsgate, like I said. Yeah, one of Gene Hackman's probably best films as well. So check out The Conversation any way you can. If you haven't yet, let me know if you're interested in this super deluxe edition that's coming out. It's probably going to be expensive, but it's going to be worth it. So we've got that coming out from Studio Canal, and we've got a couple more things from Studio Canal as well. We have this Western called Red Sun, and they actually put that out on Blu-ray, I think around 2015, 2016. So it's kind of a re-release for Studio Canal, but it's got a new 4K, um yeah, it's got a new 4K, like, restoration or scan or something like that, and it's coming in both a standard Blu-ray edition, and it's coming in a steelbook, and the only way you can get the movie on 4K is if you buy the steelbook. Yeah, the steelbook is coming with a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray disc and Blu-ray disc, while the regular, like, regular standard packaging is only coming with the Blu-ray. So that's a little funny to me. Kind of annoying, especially if you're not a steelbook enthusiast or something like that, and you just want the movie in the regular case in 4K. You can't get it. I don't know if they'll change that afterward, but um, it's a good film. It's a film that I had never seen before, and it's a bit of an East meets West type of film, directed by Terrence Young, and it stars Charles Bronson as well as Toshiro Mifune as well as Alain Delon. Those three guys are going to get you to watch this movie just out of that curiosity. Alain Delon doesn't have much to do in the film. It's mostly a film about Charles Bronson and Toshiro Mifune. So what happens in this movie, Red Sun, is that Charles Bronson and his gang are they're robbing a train. And on the train, I believe, are some Chinese delegates who are making their way to Washington, D.C. And they rob these Chinese delegates of, money and gold and stuff. But what they steal is also this gold samurai sword. And Toshiro Mifune is like the bodyguard or head bodyguard protector of, I think, the diplomat that's on this train. And he is now tasked with having to hunt down and get this sword back. What happens during this robbery is that Alain Delon double crosses Charles Bronson. So now Charles Bronson wants to get Alain Delon. Toshiro Mifune wants to get Alain Delon. So they've got to team up and go after Alain Delon. That's the premise of this movie. So you get a little bit of East meets West. You get some samurai. You get some, West gunslinging action going on. I thought it was really cool and entertaining. Like, I dug it. I dug it super, super hard. Ursula Andress is also in the film as well. Ursula Andress, I remember being, I believe, the first Bond girl ever in Doctor No. Coincidentally, Terrence Young directed Doctor No. Terrence Young, I believe, directed a few James Bond films, a few early ones, the ones with Sean Connery, uh, the ones that people tend to love the most. Yeah, Terrence Young directed Doctor No. He also directed, I want to say, From Russia with Love, Thunderball. He also directed the movie Wait Until Dark with Audrey Hepburn, which I think is an astounding film from 1967 that has a Warner Archive Blu-ray release. Really good movie. Really great film. One of Audrey Hepburn's more serious roles and one of her best roles, I would say. So that is Red Sun. Now, moving along from Red Sun, Studio Canal did not stop there when it came to putting out really great films. They are putting out a 55th anniversary Blu-ray release of Jean-Pierre Melville's Army of Shadows. A big one. This is a big, like, film school, world cinema, Titanic film. Criterion has had this movie in its catalog for a while. They had it, I think they put it out on DVD. They put it out on Blu-ray back in 2011, and I've got that Blu-ray somewhere around here. And oh, it's actually right next to me. Found it. So this is the one I bought way back in 2011. And what is interesting about this film when it comes from that perspective, a Criterion had the rights, lost the rights, got the rights back, reissued the Blu-ray in, I think, 2020 or so. And then now there's going to be a 4K restoration Blu-ray release from Studio Canal. This is an astonishing movie. I watched it for the first time the other night, and it's a movie that takes place during the French Resistance, during World War II. And basically what you get is these people, like, on these, in, like, the very ground level of the resistance, and they are, and you get, like, their perspective of what's going on. But the movie, the way in which it's told, with the patience and with the harshness and seriousness of the situation going on, it's a super cold, super blunt film, but oh so brilliant. It's not a movie that I think is action packed. It's not a movie that's riveting, but there's this sense of not Suspiria, but this sense of dread throughout. Because there are several times where like, are these people going to get caught? What's going to happen? There's sequences with them getting tortured and things like that, and it's a rough watch for probably many, but man, it's a movie that I think is really, really good. Like an all-time great film from Jean-Pierre Melville, who did a lot of great films, like Le Cercle Rouge, La Silence de la Mer is one of his early films. I actually have a few of his in my collection as well. I bought this movie at a time in my life where I knew nothing about French cinema, nothing. I didn't even know who Godard was. Like I think I bought this and Breathless at the same time. So I was just giving myself a crash course in French cinema, circa 2011. And yeah, it's taken me 13 years to watch this movie. Should have watched it much sooner. I'll tell you that. But this is getting a brand new 4K restoration. This only comes with one special feature from Studio Canal, and that's Army of Shadow: The Hidden Side of the Story. That is it. It's going to look beautiful. Unfortunately, like I said, it's a 4K restoration on a Blu-ray disc, so it's not a 4K. And I don't know if they're going to re-release this on 4K at some point. Um, I have no idea. That would be nice. But moving on from there, I think that is it for Studio Canal for now. Um, but I do want to talk about another company, boutique label from the UK, Second Run. We don't talk much about Second Run, but Second Run is putting out a movie called um, Merry-Go-Round or Corinta or Kurinta. I don't speak the language that this movie is in, but this movie is a Hungarian film. And apparently it's a very popular play as well in Hungary. And they apparently they show it all the time and people go and see it and they love it. And this is a very, very fantastic movie, like excellent film. So um it's a movie that is it came out in 1961, but it really is more of a depiction of post World War II um post World War II Hungary, what that world, what that people look like, what their society looked like and all of that. It is a phenomenal film. So in a rural scenery in the throes of difficult changes lives a humble but promising young farm girl called Marie Pataki. Her father forbids her from seeing the man she loves. The father, above all, preoccupied by work on the fields and prospective wealth, decides to give his daughter in marriage to an old rich man with whom he does business. And basically, it's one of those kind of situations going on here. It's a movie that um, is dealing with very humanistic type things going on in a culture that we kind of see permeate through to today. This kind of patriarchal society, this society in which the fathers make all the decisions of the family. The fathers are the ones who pick the suitors for their daughters based off of, in this case, it's someone who has a farm. You know what I mean? We think it's a throwback, but those ideas, that type of sexism permeates through to today. I think. Well, this is a film from 1956. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of another film from 1961 that I think I'm going to get to later, but this is what I'm talking about now. Really good film, really excellent film. Complete blind watch for me, and um, yeah, it's an excellent film. It's also, like I said, it's called Merry-Go-Round, which which is an interesting title. I feel like it's a metaphorical title. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's coming from Second Run. Um, let's see what else is cooking here. Before we get to kind of the bigger ones of the week, see what else I pulled up. I should probably check my notes at some point. There they are. I think so. That's it. I guess we'll go to some of the bigger ones of the week. Um, Yeah, let's go to Radiance. Radiance is one of the first ones straight out of the gate, and Radiance once again has a nice batch of releases, stuff that you can't find streaming anywhere. Because I know I looked and I couldn't find some of these. First up here is Viva la Muerta. Viva la Muerta is a film that I caught my eye in terms of the general premise of it. Um, so at the end of the Spanish Civil War, Fando, a boy of about 10, tries to make sense of war and his father's arrest. His mother is religious, sympathetic to the fascists. His father is accused of being a Red. Fando discovers that his mother may have aided in his father's arrest. Sometimes we witness Fando imagining explanations for what's going on. So what we get here is a child's perspective of a much, a much more complex and serious world, dealing with politics, dealing with war, dealing with obviously a mother and father who are on different sides of the political spectrum, and what that can lead to. What I've also heard about this movie is that it's got a lot of surreal surreal moments that rival like Louis Buñuel. Like I've heard Louis Buñuel's name come up numerous times in this. The English language title for the movie is Long Live Death, which is a fascinating title in and of itself. But yeah, this movie, um, I want to check out, but it's not really streaming anywhere. Don't be fooled if you go to like justwatch.com or if you go to Letterbox. It says that it's streaming on Canopy, but when you click on the link to go there, the page doesn't exist. So it's not streaming on Canopy. It may have at one point, but it currently is not. And yeah, it's a movie that I really really wanted to see. So that's Viva la Muerta or Long Live Death, which is a heck of a title, if I do say so myself. Next is Tokijiro Lone Yakuza. This is another film I could not find streaming anywhere, and this is a movie that the synopsis says uh, Tokijiro has the unfortunate duty, according to the code of the gamblers, to join in the fighting when afforded a night's stay and meals at the home of a town boss. Though he dislikes killing, the strength of his swordsmanship will be tested time and time again in the bloody tale. Um, yeah, it's a Japanese film. So you're dealing with Yakuza. I'm interested. You know what I mean? You're saying like keywords that pique my interest. And I think it's a movie by a director who's actually other films I have seen. So he directed I the Executioner, and he directed By a Man's Face Shall You Know Him. I believe By a Man's Face Shall You Know Him has been put out by Radiance in the past. The director is Tai Kato. Tai Kato. And then in typical Radiance fashion, they are putting out a box set. And this is a volume 2 box set. They've already put out volume 1 of this, so get it while you can. So World Noir volume 2. And in World Noir volume 2, we've got Black Gravel, we've got Symphony for a Massacre, and we have Cruel Gun Story. Yes, Cruel Gun Story I've seen before because it was streaming on the Criterion channel at one point. I think it still is actually. You can check that out there right now if you have it, or if you want to sign up for a free trial just to watch Cruel Gun Story. It's part of their Japanese noir collection. That's where I watched it, so that gives you a sense of what that film is. It's similar in the vein to like Branded to Kill or Tokyo's, not Tokyo Story, but the other Seijun Suzuki film that Criterion put out that I can't remember at the moment. But think of those films. But the film that I was just talking about that I screwed up with the other one is Black Gravel. This is a film that that is dealing with um it's actually dealing with post World War II Germany. It's dealing with post World War II Germany, and it's dealing with um Cold War type things going on, but it's so much more on a human level. So, for those of you who don't know, after World War II, the victors, the Allies, United States, Great Britain, et cetera, they occupied like Japan and they occupied Germany for a long while afterwards. So they had military institutions and they're pretty much, I guess, as a policing force, essentially. There's so much more that goes into it. But in this movie, you kind of get that sense of what that life was like for the people living there, for the people who are kind of the regular folk, the people who, um, perhaps took part in the war, but perhaps were more on the home front. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big part of what this movie is. So, So Sonin is a town built on vice for the occupying American forces in Cold War Germany. This is 1961. Robert, a local truck driver who sells off gravel from the site he works on as a side hustle, runs into an old flame, Inge. Inge is now respectively married to American officer John, who runs the site. Driving in Robert's truck, tragedy strikes, and he and Inge must do their best to cover up a pair of dead bodies. Okay, so what? So with that setting, you've got obviously there's going to be tension already there from the German people as well as the American forces, culture clash, all this kind of stuff. And then now you add the element of uh, murder on top of it, and then hiding murder complicates situations so much more. But what the film also does is it kind of bounces around to other characters and what they're doing as well. So you get kind of a cross section of what's going on in this small town that's being occupied by American forces. And you just see this world that's there and just like what it's like. It's fascinating film, really great film. It has been restored by the Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau Stiftung, which is the German company that restores a lot of German films. I see them restore a lot of like Murnau films from the 1920s, something like Nosferatu, things like that. Yeah, so this is a great film. I didn't get to see Symphony for a Massacre because I couldn't find it to stream anywhere, but I have my faith entirely in Radiance's hands. We just had Fran on here uh, a little while ago to talk about what's been cooking over at Radiance. Great interview, great guy, putting out great stuff, and putting out stuff at a fast pace. It feels like we talk about their new stuff every single month. It just keeps coming in and coming in. So that is Radiance. So moving on from Radiance, let's go over to Indicator. Let's see what's going on over at Powerhouse. Um, Over at Powerhouse, they put out three films. They put out Bruiser, Single White Female, and Untouched. Single White Female, I think, is a film that a lot of people are familiar with because it's an American film starring Bridget Fonda and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And it's a movie that's been around for a while. It came out in 1992. It's a film that um, it has been referenced in pop culture many times over. It's directed by Barbette Schroeder, who did the movie Barfly with Mickey Rourke, which is a great film. Highly recommend that film. I still need to get, if I can track it down, the imprint release. They did a nice deluxe release of Barfly with Mickey Rourke in it. Yeah, this is an interesting kind of 90s psychological thriller where Jennifer Jason Leigh's character breaks up with her fiance or boyfriend, and then she's looking for a new roommate. So, she puts an ad out, she interviews people, and then she ends up basically inviting Bridget Fonda's character to be her roommate. But there's something not quite right going on with the Bridget Fonda character. There's something not quite okay with certain things that she does. She ends up becoming obsessed with the Jennifer Jason Leigh character. So much so that it becomes very, antagonistic, very bad, very violent. As obsession tends to take over you, that's the path that tends to go down. So Single White Female is that movie. I'm pretty sure many people have seen it. I went on the letterbox there after I watched it, and so many people I follow had seen the movie already. And I think it's gotten a release here once upon a time. Let me see. Single White Female has yes, it did. It got a release here in 2018 by Shout Factory, and it's still in print. So many of you probably have that release in your collections already. Yeah, this one here just says high definition remaster. It's got a commentary by director Barbette Schroeder and editor Lee Percy, and associate producer Susan Hoffman. Plus a bunch of other extras here as well. Indicator always packs their releases with extras, even if it's a re-release of a movie that's already come out here. They always tend to pack their releases. Bruiser is getting a 4K UHD release as well as a Blu-ray. Single White Female is only getting a Blu-ray release, and Untouched is only getting released here in the United States. So only a Region A release, and so you can only buy it here at like Diabolic DVD or Orbit DVD. Amazon and such. Bruiser is an interesting film. It is a film directed by George A. Romero from 2000. It's considered one of his lesser films, and I can kind of understand why, because apparently I watched the movie 5 years ago and did not remember any of it until I was rewatching it, and it all came flooding back to me. It's like it's like you just get downloaded with stuff like in the Matrix. Like in the Matrix, they download you to be able to know kung fu or to know how to fly a plane or a helicopter or whatever. Like that's what happens to me sometimes when there's a movie I've seen, don't remember it, start watching it again, all comes flooding back in. So Bruiser is kind of one of George A. Romero's lesser films. Um, and yeah, the movie is stars Jason Fleming, Peter Stormare, Leslie Hope. It's a deranged, weird movie. It's got good things in it at parts. So if the movie feels like kind of George A. Romero doing a deranged version of American Psycho, in the sense that you have this character portrayed by Jason Fleming who works at this magazine called Bruiser. He's got this super overbearing, super wild, super unhinged boss in Peter Stormare, who's playing it to the nines in this movie. If anything, watch the movie for Peter Stormare and his wildness. Um, it was, it's, you know what? You're right. Now that I'm saying that, thank you for correcting me. David James, thank you for correcting me. It is the other way around. Jennifer Jason Leigh becomes the obsessed one in Single White Female. Thank you so much for correcting me, or else I would have completely have botched that entirely. So you are right. Um, and you also right that Peter Stormare is great. He's great in everything he's in, even if he has a small role in something. Like he is. No, trust me, I've got the same thing, David. My OCD would drive me crazy as well, and make me want to correct myself. So thank you for correcting me in real time. But Peter Stormare is wild in this movie. Um, he's a creep. He's super rich, so he doesn't care at all. Even in small roles, like he's at the beginning of John Wick 2, and he's got a line about a pencil that's just endlessly quotable. I remember first seeing him in Armageddon, where he's the Russian cosmonaut that they find on the space station. That was my first introduction to Peter Stormare in Armageddon. Yeah, he's been around for a while. Wasn't he like the bad guy in 22 Jump Street as well? Yeah, he's great. And he's good in this movie. If anything, he brings like some levity and some charisma to this movie, because Jason Fleming is kind of flat, unfortunately. And yeah, it's he's also really trying hard to keep an American accent, and sometimes it breaks and you notice it, but that's irrelevant. So what happens in the movie is Jason Fleming works at the magazine Bruiser, like I said, and he kind of hates his life. He absolutely hates his life. He's got a wife who hates him, and he hates her, and she's cheating on him. It's a whole big shitty situation that he's got going on. And what happens is one day is he wakes up and his face is covered in this plain white mask, and he can't take it off. He can't take it off. He can't shave it off. He can't do anything with it. And he just starts becoming kind of psychotic and starts murdering people. You know what I mean? And the movie's kind of playing on the idea of that's kind of like a manifestation of the problems he has in his life in this mask. It reminds me kind of the movie Onibaba. Onibaba, of course, being a much better movie than this, but that idea of putting on this mask that you can't take off, it also feels like Hollow Man. Have you ever seen the movie Hollow Man? Because when he has this mask on his face, or his face has become this mask, he kind of becomes deranged like that, where he feels like he's anonymous. He feels like he's no one. And these are the elements of the movie that I really like. Unfortunately, the pieces in the movie aren't that great. Like some of the acting, some of the dialogue isn't particularly good. The plot is kind of, not, kind of just straight up what it is. There's no real complexity to it. But yeah, if you're a George A. Romero completist, if you have a George A. Romero section in your collection like I do, you may need to get this at one point. I don't know if you want to get it now, if you want to wait for a sale. Indicator has their flash sales, stuff like that, or whatever the case may be. But that is Bruiser. I do want to see what they've got in terms of special features on here because um, if yeah, it's typically stacked. It's got an audio commentary with George A. Romero from 2001. It's got an archival interview with George A. Romero's got a new interview with Jason Fleming. That's very interesting. Um, it's got a new interview with some other people here. It's got a bunch of new special features. Kim Newman does something on here as well. So yeah, if anything, it's a nice collection. It's limited to 7,000. It's got an 80-page book as well as typically these more deluxe editions come from when they come from Indicator. It's region free, so no need to worry there. So yeah, so getting that out of the way. Untouched, like I said, I did not get to see it, but I really wish I did because it stars Ricardo Montalban. It's a Mexican film. And as we talked when we had Sam and John on from Indicator, um, we talked a lot about how they've been putting out a lot of Mexican films. They put out that box set, which I actually have here somewhere, but I won't take it out, in the interest of time. But they've also put out, like Phantom Lady and stuff like that. They put out, those lucha libre films and stuff like that. They really delved into Mexican cinema, which is an area that doesn't get highlighted a lot. So this, I believe, is more of that. So Ricardo Montalban is in this film. Um, and Jorge Martinez de Hoyos star in Untouched, a strange exotic adventure set at the edge of civilization. Scientist Federico, portrayed by Montalban, is tasked with taking a journey into the jungle to search for a rare medicinal root. When he becomes desperately lost, he is rescued by a farmer and soon begins a torrid affair with the farmer's beautiful daughter. Directed by Roberto Galvedon, co-written by Louis Buñuel's regular screenwriter Louis Alacoriza, and shot almost entirely on location. Untouched is finally available, fully uncut and uncensored, on Blu-ray for the first time anywhere in the world. Coming from a new 4K restoration done by UCLA Film and Television Archive. And yeah, it's got interviews on here. It's got an audio commentary. It's got a booklet with essays as well. So this is a nice little kind of undiscovered film. I've never heard of it until now. So I'm definitely interested in this. So yeah, so good solid 3-film slate from Indicator. Moving on now, I think we've come interesting close here to the end. I just want to check my notes to make sure that I've got things all in tow. I do want to move on. The last thing I will probably be talking about will be Vinegar Syndrome, and I believe that's where I'm going to go now. Yeah, let's go over to Vinegar Syndrome. So Vinegar Syndrome, of course, they're having their Black Friday sale on Friday the 24th, starting at 12:01 a.m. For those of you late night people, late night owls like myself, will be there to see what's happening because sometimes these more coveted editions from Vinegar Syndrome tend to sell fast, so you got to get there in time. But yeah, the only one that's new coming from Vinegar Syndrome proper is this movie Riddle of Fire. So Riddle of Fire is an interesting movie done in the vein of like a Time Bandits or a Goonies. Um, it's in that vein, not quite as mystical, magical as fantasy like. It's more innocent than that. It's more um real than that actually. It's a movie that initially I was kind of put off by, but then the more I got into the film, the more I delved into it, the more I kind of thought of the movie. I'm like, this movie's doing something interesting with this type of genre. The movie's entirely centers around these group of kids. I believe it's 3 kids, and they're really good in the movie. You know what I mean? Because they seem like genuine kids at a genuine curious age, just having like a summer adventure. You know what I mean? On a day. And the movie takes place all in one day, and they have to go on these adventures, but the way in which they interpret these adventures, they interpret them as like quests you would do in like a medieval video game or something. And that's how they view the world, and that's a very childlike sense of viewing, a very innocent sense of viewing the world that I think is lost on a lot of us older jaded people, really. And yeah, the movie is so genuine in that, and it's genuine because these kids feel so real. Now that can lead to, some cringy dialogue and things like that, but it's like that's what kids are, kids are not going to speak properly. Kids are going to do silly dumb things, say silly dumb things, because that's kind of what a lot of us did as kids. And it's a movie that's really kind of trying to capture that pre pre-internet life, pre-internet world where kids would spend summer days hanging out with friends and going on bike rides. Like that's what the movie feels like. So, the general premise of the movie, now that I've kind of talked so much about how the film feels, is these three kids have to get these ingredients to bake a pie for like two of the kids sick. Mother is sick, and the third one's kind of like their best friend who goes along with them on adventures, and in doing so they've got to collect all of the ingredients. Well, initially the reason why they want to do it is um they want the password for the TV because the TV has been child locked by the mother. So the mother is sick and she won't give up the password for the TV because she doesn't want the kids sitting in front of the TV all day, rotting their brains, eating candy and cake and stuff like that. So in order for them to do this, they're like, how can we make our mother feel better to get us this password? They're gonna buy a pie. Well, the store they go to doesn't have the pie that they want to buy. So they go to the woman who bakes the pie. She's sick, she can't bake pies. So, okay, we're going to get the ingredients to bake the pie ourselves to give to the mother. And then that spurs this whole adventure of them hunting down specific ingredients. The specific ingredient is a speckled egg. And they end up getting caught up in this adventure with these poachers that are now portrayed as like these ogreish bad guys as a witch with magic and stuff. It's a really fun movie, but keep in mind the movie is very indie. It's very low budgeted. It feels like someone made this on a very shoestring budget, so it's not really polished as most Hollywood productions are. But I think that lends to the charm of the movie. It really lends to the general reality of it all. So I really dig the film a lot. It's called Riddle of Fire, a movie that came out in I think 2000. It's a recent film, 2023. So it is also 114 minutes, a little long, but you have fun going along on this adventure. But moving on from the Vinegar Syndrome proper, but I just also want to say a lot of the stuff that's up for pre-order that I think is releasing during the sale will be a Navy SEALs, China O'Brien, Homegrown Horrors Volume 3, Dangerous Game from the cinematograph, um, cinematograph. Yeah, something like that. Can never pronounce it, still to this day. But from their new line they're going on. So moving over to the partner labels, which is the place where Steven and I have delved into so much great, like treasures of the unknown, I would say. Um, Treasures of the Unknown. So they had 11 announcements or so this week. One of them being an actual re-release from our buddies over at Canadian International Pictures. They're re-releasing Amityville Curse, but this time they're re-releasing it with a new slipcover with new artwork. But it's the same movie, same release, same special features, all of that stuff. Now it just has a new slipcover. Unfortunately, you cannot just buy the slipcover itself. If you've already bought the movie, you have to buy the movie again. But I guess you could, in theory, then sell the extra copy of the movie that you have to recoup your funds. You could do that. Or if you haven't bought Amityville Curse at all yet, you can just buy this re-release. But so they've done that. And let's just go through some of the highlights of this for me. Uh, there's a movie here from Shudder called Brooklyn 45. It's a movie that you can stream on Shudder right now if you have the Shudder streaming service, that horror movie streaming service. Five military veterans, best friends since childhood, gathered together in a Brooklyn brownstone several months after the end of World War II, and the metaphoric ghosts of their past become all too literal. So what you get here is all of these like World War II Army veterans gather together essentially for a seance, and they unleash some type of ghost from the past that they probably didn't want to do initially. And then what that ends up spurring is them kind of like confessing certain deep down heavy secrets and all kinds of stuff. Um, cool indie movie, really good. All takes place in one setting. Worth a watch if you have Shudder. I'm not sure if it's worth buying this release straight up for it, but if you're a fan of horror, I wouldn't stop you. I wouldn't stop you when it comes to that. It's called Brooklyn 45 because it takes place in Brooklyn in 1945. Yeah. Uh, Houseboat Horror, which is being released by Umbrella Entertainment, is actually a re-release that Umbrella has already put out in Australia. A kind of a low-budget cult horror film that slasher film. Basically, it's a slasher film on a boat. That's the movie. Speaking of re-releases here, I do want to say that Film Movement has two films they're putting out here, or two releases, and they're both re-releases. And the ones that they've got that they're re-releasing is Samurai Wolf 1 and 2. Samurai Wolf 1 and 2, not only is it getting a re-release now, it was put out by them several years ago, and it's also getting, I think it's already gotten a re-release from Eureka. The Eureka releases actually have, I believe, extra features that this release doesn't have. And I've seen the first Samurai Wolf, and I think I've talked about it before. Really great movie. Really great samurai action film. Yeah, Eureka's release came out in January, and their original release came out in May of last year from Film Movement. So we've talked about Samurai Wolf 1 and 2 numerous times. The other movie that I believe is getting a release from them, or a re-release from them, is the movie L'Important C'est d'Amer, or The Most Important Thing, Love. This is a phenomenal movie. This is an astonishingly great film. This film is directed by Andrei Zulawski. If you remember, Eureka put out an Andrei Zulawski box set last year, I believe. Let me make sure I'm not lying to you all, as I like to make up things sometimes or misremember things. Yes, the Andrei Zulawski 3-film box set came out last August from Eureka Entertainment. It contained the third part of The Night, The Devil, on Silver Globe. Andrei Zulawski is a fantastic director. He is, of course, probably most well known for Possession, which I am holding out on adding to my collection until the Second Sight 4K release comes out, which I know is coming. They told us it's coming. So I really, really hope that it comes out sometime this year, or at least we get more details on that soon, because I want more Andrei Zulawski in my collection. Great director, putting out really great films. And this film here is one of them, in my opinion. This movie came out in 1975. Let's see. Let me get to the premise here. Romy Schneider delivers a César Award-winning performance as a down-on-her-luck actress in L'Important C'est d'Amer, The Most Important Thing, Luck, from Andrei Zulawski's passionate portrait of the dignity and indignities of an actor's work. Forced to earn a living by accepting demeaning roles negated by her erratic husband, Nadine Chevalier, Romy Schneider, encounters tabloid photographer Cervais, Fabio Testi, portrayed by Fabio Testi, and on the set of her latest film. Desperate to win her affections, Cervais secretly uses money borrowed from a shady associate to bankroll her next project, a production of Richard III, with Nadine starring opposite the maniacal German thespian Karl-Heinz Zimmer, played by Klaus Kinski. Yes. So Klaus Kinski is an unhinged person and actor in this movie, playing an unhinged actor in this movie. It's kind of the inception of Klaus Kinski at points. But this movie is interesting in so many ways. So this man kind of becomes enamored and obsessed with this actress who is in these kind of B movies type of situations. I think they're more like erotic films or erotic thrillers, something like that. It's something perceived as lowbrow, whatever. And he becomes so enamored with her that he borrows money from shady characters to fund this play in order for her to get to have the lead role in it. Um, yeah, it's a little bit of obsession, a little bit over the top obsession, if you would say. But the film is really, really good in delving into that. Um, yeah, it's a film that I thought is fantastic, and I do want to say uh, if it's yeah, if I do want to see if it was actually re-released before. Um, it's yeah, I would highly recommend anyone check out Zalowski's work. Um, although Possession is his best movie, the movie's gonna blow you away to a point in which I don't know if any of his other movies will compare. Unfortunately for me, as I think his as I started out watching that film first, therefore his work is kind of spoiled for me at least a little bit. Um, and yeah, but let me check real quickly on Blu-ray.com if this movie has. I don't think it's been released before on Blu-ray, at least not that I can see. It's a movie, like I said, super overlooked, and I didn't even see it. Actually, it has been released on Blu-ray. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's been a US release of it. And yeah, Film Movement put it out, well, May 24th. That's the release coming out now. So no. So at least I believe this will be the first time it's been released here because it's been released in like France and overseas and stuff like that. So anywho, that's L'Important c'est la mer by Andrei Zulawski. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh yeah, Dekanalog is putting on a movie called Streetwise, another phenomenal film. Like this movie is really good. It's told in a way that feels like this ethereal dream at times. I felt the same way about this movie, the same way I feel about watching a Wong Kar-wai film at times. It's not quite to that level of dreamscape, but it's giving those vibes. It's giving that energy. Um, and yeah, so a bracingly bleak, yeah, it's a neo noir. It's a bracingly bleak neo noir soaked in sinister atmosphere. There's that Wong Kar-wai atmosphere. Um, the director is Jajwo Na. Uh, so Na's feature debut focuses on Dongji, a 21-year-old debt collector making a dishonest living in the bustling criminal economy in Sichuan province of Zhenwu, all while aspiring to a better life than that which his ailing ex-gangster father has lived. Boasting a crack ensemble cast, brooding nocturnal cinematography, and an insider's understanding of small town claustrophobia, Na's sleek neo noir established him as one of mainland China's undeniable emerging talents during its lauded festival run. This movie came out in 2021. It's a Chinese film. There is an interview with the director on here. I'm fascinated by what he has to say about this movie. Really good film. And the lead character has this romance friendship with this other woman in the film, and it's interesting the way in which this film is told, this way the story is unfolded is fascinating. I can't quite capture it correctly. Just trust me when I tell you it's interesting if you like movies of this nature, very avant-garde, a little bit surreal kind of told, with not quite a linear plot. I'm not saying like the plot's like back and forth or we're going in reverse like Memento or anything like that, but just like the movie doesn't really have a concrete plot to it. You're mostly just kind of floating around in character situations in moments and just kind of seeing the people's lives. Really good movie. Beautiful cover art here by Tony Stella, whom we've had here as a guest on Chasing Labels in the past as well. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Um, I think that's about it when it comes to the things that I watched and things that I'm really interested in. Things that I would definitely things that I can firsthand recommend would be the things I just recommended. And that is it for Vinegar Syndrome. And I think that's it for everything I have to talk about this week. The chances are I forgot to put something in my notes or I forgot something along the way. That just seems to be the way I am. But yeah, this has been the first in the journey of me going solo here on Chasing Labels. Like I said earlier, we are doing our Unwatched Pile new episode this coming Monday, May 20th, streaming here. Um, live at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There, of course, is the previous interviews we've done here, the previous on Watch Piles, the previous episodes are on our YouTube channel. They're also on Apple Podcasts, like Google has them as well. Um, you know, everybody, everywhere podcasts can be found, pretty much you will find Chasing Labels there. Um, if you have any questions for me, definitely, put it in the comments below. We're just here to talk about movies, talk about movie releases, all that kind of good stuff. So, without further ado, um, keep on watching those movies because I know I will.